Welcome to IPL Deep Dive, the podcast that brings you expert analysis, thrilling match highlights, and all the drama of IPL 2025. Whether you're a diehard fan or just catching the cricket fever, we've got you covered with in-depth insights and engaging discussions. Get ready to explore the heart of the action with your hosts, Mike and Michelle, as they dive into today's match analysis. It's time to step onto the pitch and join the conversation.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive.
Yeah, always great to be back.
You know, in T20 cricket, how quickly things can change?
Yeah.
I mean, one minute you think you've got a team figured out, the next minute the script's completely flipped.
Absolutely.
Like take Jofra Archer one game, he's got the most expensive bowling figures in IPL history, and then boom, he's back, dismantling a team that hadn't lost a single match.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the match we're diving deep into today, the clash between the Punjab Kings, who were on that unbeaten streak, and the Rajasthan Royals.
Yeah, a really intriguing matchup.
So we've got all sorts of goodies for you guys today. Tons of analysis. We've been combing through YouTube commentary from the CricBuzz and ESPN Crichinfo crews, and of course all the official stats and squad info from the IPL T20 website.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done our homework.
And the mission for us today is to try and unpack what happened in this match, what were the key factors that led to Rajasthan's pretty comfortable win over Punjab, and what went wrong for a team like Punjab that had been on such a roll, and really just try and understand what this tells us about both these teams as this IPL season continues to unfold.
Yeah, lots to dig into.
So let's get right into it. And I think it makes sense to start by talking about Rajasthan's bowling performance because they were absolutely on fire.
Yeah, they were.
And I mean, the name on everyone's lips is Jofra Archer. And for good reason, he had an incredible bounce-back game.
Yeah, he did.
After that tough first outing, he really came back with a vengeance. 3 wickets for just 25 runs, and 2 of those crucially came in the power play, which really put Punjab on back foot right from the start.
Yeah, those early wickets are so crucial in T20 cricket.
Absolutely. And when you listen to the commentators talking about Archer, they were really focused on his rhythm and how in that first match he just didn't seem to have it.
Yeah, he looked a little bit off, didn't he?
But against Punjab, it was like a different bowler, altogether consistently hitting speeds above 144 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, they were using words like steaming in and unleashing that raw pace.
Yeah, and you can just feel the energy every time he ran into bowl.
Oh, absolutely. And that first over where he got Shreyas Iyer out, who's been in such great form for Punjab, that really set the tone for their whole innings.
It did. It really shifted the momentum early on.
And it's a good lesson for you watching at home how one over can completely change the complexion of a match.
For sure. And while Archer was bringing that heat, Sandeep Sharma was, as always, just super smart with his bowling.
Yeah, he's so crafty.
2 wickets for 21 runs and 8 dot balls. I mean, that's incredible.
Especially in T20 cricket where every run counts, those dot balls are like gold dust.
Exactly. And he's become such a master of adapting his bowling.
Yeah.
You know, we heard the commentators talking about his slower balls, his wide Yorkers, and just his ability to build pressure even when he's not taking wickets.
Right, he's not always the flashiest bowler, but he just gets the job done.
Yeah, and it's interesting because earlier in his IPL career, he was mainly used as a power play bowler.
Right.
But now he seems to have this more versatile role.
Yeah, he's really evolved as a bowler.
And you get the feeling that he's maybe one of those players who doesn't always get the recognition he deserves for just how consistently good he is.
For sure. I think he's one of those unsung heroes.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
if we connect this to the bigger picture, for Rajasthan being able to have that combination of Archer's express pace and Sharma's subtle variations is just such a headache for any batting lineup.
Yeah, it's a real 1-2 punch.
And you can see how having that strong bowling performance has really helped them bounce back from those 2 losses they had at the start of the season.
Yeah, they seem to have found their winning formula.
And it's come at a really good time for them.
Absolutely.
Now, let's not forget the spin bowlers as well.
Right.
Yuzvendra Chahal, even though he didn't bowl his full quota of overs in this match, he's always a threat.
Yeah, he's a world-class spinner.
But it was actually the 2 Sri Lankan spinners, Tikshana and Hasaranga, who combined to make a big impact.
They did.
Their combined figures were 3 for 62 and 8 overs, which is pretty impressive in a T20 game.
Yeah, those are good numbers.
What I found interesting is how Rajasthan seems to be using their spinners in tandem. You know, once Archer and Sharma have created that early pressure and picked up those crucial wickets, they can then bring on Tikshana and Hasaranga to really squeeze the opposition batsman.
Yeah, it's like they've got this tag team of spin bowlers.
Exactly. And we heard the commentators talking about how effective Tikshana was, even though there were a couple of close calls with DRS. he still managed to get those important wickets.
Yeah, he kept his cool under pressure.
And it just shows you the depth and variety that Rajasthan has in their bowling attack.
Yeah.
They can really mix things up and keep the batsmen guessing.
Exactly. And it's a good lesson for you watching at home. Think about how you can mix up your bowling attack to keep the opposition on their toes.
So Rajasthan's bowling was definitely clicking. Let's turn our attention now to the Punjab Kings batting, and it wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't their best day at the office.
It was described by the commentators in some pretty blunt terms, starting off slow, like slow Wi-Fi, and then just completely collapsing in those final 5 overs.
Yeah, it was like they hit a brick wall.
Losing by 50 runs after being unbeaten? That's gotta be tough to swallow.
Yeah, it's a big reality check for them.
And the commentators really emphasized that after a certain point, it just felt like their innings fell off a cliff.
Right, they just couldn't get anything going.
They only managed to score 24 runs in those last 5 overs, and in a T20 chase, you just know that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, you need to be scoring at least 8 or 9 and over in those last few overs to have any chance of winning.
Now, there was one bright spot for Punjab in Nile Wadhira's innings.
Yeah, he played really well.
He scored a very impressive 62 runs and built a good partnership with Glenn Maxwell, who chipped in with 30.
That partnership gave them a glimmer of hope.
It did for a while look like they might be able to claw their way back into the match.
Yeah, but it just wasn't to be.
And what really stood out about Wadhira's innings was his positive intent. He went after both the fast bowlers and the spinners and seemed to have a clear game plan.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to take on the bowling.
And that partnership with Maxwell was crucial. It brought some much-needed momentum back into the Punjab innings.
It did for a while there. It looked like the match might go down to the wire.
Unfortunately for Punjab, though, apart from that one big partnership, they just couldn't build any other meaningful stands.
Yeah, they lacked partnerships, which is so important in T20 cricket.
And we even heard that Shreyas Iyer was pretty disappointed with his own shot selection and the team's overall inability to put together those partnerships.
Yeah, as a captain, he would have been hoping for more from his top order.
But the positive for Punjab is that even though their top order faltered, the middle order did show some fight.
Yeah, that's a good sign for them.
So let's dig into some of the key turning points and the tactical decisions that shaped this match.
Okay.
We've already touched on Jofra Archer's opening over, but it's worth highlighting again just how much it set the tone for the rest of the match.
Yeah, it was a game changer.
Getting a batsman like Iyer out early who's been in such good form, it really put the pressure on the rest of the Punjab lineup.
And it allowed Rajasthan spinners to come on and bowl with a bit more freedom.
Exactly. They didn't have to worry about chasing the game as much.
It's a great example of how one moment can shift the momentum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, tactically, there was a lot of discussion about Punjab not bowling out Yuzvendra Chahal's full allocation of overs.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it?
It seemed like a strange decision considering how heavily Rajasthan relied on their spinners.
It did make you wonder what their thinking was.
And it does raise questions about their assessment of the conditions and their overall bowling strategy for this match.
Right. Maybe they felt that the pitch wasn't offering enough spin, but it certainly seemed to be turning for Rajasthan spinners.
There were also a few dropped catches and a missed run-out during Rajasthan's innings.
Yeah, they weren't perfect in the field.
They didn't end up costing them in this match, but those are the kind of errors that can come back to haunt you in those really tight games.
Especially in T20 cricket where every run counts.
And it's a reminder that even in a dominant performance, there are always areas for improvement.
Yeah, you can always get better.
The Punjab made an interesting change to their batting order, promoting Marcus Stoinis up the order.
Right.
And the commentators were speculating about the reasons behind this. Maybe they wanted his experience higher up the order, or maybe it was a tactical move to try and counter Rajasthan's bowling attack.
Yeah, it could have been a few different things.
Didn't quite work out for them in this match, but it'll be interesting to see if they stick with that strategy in future games.
Yeah, it'll be something to keep an eye on.
Finally, there was a lot of talk about the pitch at Molanpur and whether Punjab might need to adjust their overall strategy when playing at home.
Yeah, the pitch definitely seemed to offer something for the bowlers.
There was a suggestion that they might need to consider batting first more often if the pitch is consistently going to favor the bowlers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Choosing to bat first would allow them to set a total and then try to defend it with their bowling attack.
Which seems to be their strength.
Exactly. So let's look at the broader implications of this result and how it impacts the dynamics of the tournament.
Okay.
This win was huge for Rajasthan, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a big one.
Not only did they get 2 valuable points, but it also gave their morale a big boost and move them up the points table.
Yeah, they jumped all the way up to 7th place.
Which, after those 2 opening losses, is a pretty remarkable turnaround.
Yeah, they've really turned things around.
For Punjab, this first loss at home sees them drop down to 4th on the table.
Yeah, and their net run rate took a hit as well.
Which, as you know, can be crucial later in the tournament if teams are tied on points.
Yeah, it's a good reminder of how important net run rate can be.
And it just shows you how quickly the momentum can shift in a league as competitive as the IPL. One other interesting point that came up in the commentary was about the support systems around players and how Rajasthan seemed to be fostering a very supportive environment for someone like Jofra Archer.
Yeah, that was a really interesting discussion.
And there's a sense that this might be a factor in his return to form.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it, that players perform better when they feel supported.
Absolutely. And it's something for all teams to think about how they can create that kind of environment for their players.
Yeah, it's about more than just the cricket, isn't it?
The commentators also briefly touched on other teams like Sunrisers Hyderabad and Gujarat Titans, and it just highlights how open this IPL season is.
Yeah, it feels like any team can beat any other team on their day.
Which makes it so exciting for the fans.
Absolutely. You never know what's going to happen.
So let's wrap up this deep dive with the key takeaways.
Okay.
It's clear that Jofra Archer's resurgence and Rajasthan's overall bowling strength were the decisive factors in this victory.
Yeah, they were outstanding.
Nihal Wadhera showed some real grit for Punjab, but ultimately their batting let them down.
Yeah, they need to be more consistent with the bat.
And tactically, the different approaches to using spin bowling from the two teams was a big talking point.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the contrast.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Considering Archer's comeback and Sandeep Sharma's consistent brilliance, how do you think other teams will adjust their strategies when they face Rajasthan Royals and their potent pace-spin combination?
Yeah, that's a great question. It'll be fascinating to see how teams approach that challenge.
For those of you who want to delve even deeper, I encourage you to check out the match highlights and the individual player stats.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then. Bye.